सत श्री अकाल एंड वेलकम टू CJ सिद्धू शो। जिस तरह तुहानूं पता ही है कि हर थर्सडे असीं थोड़े रूबरू होईदा ते थोड़ी गल कराई दी है मोस्टली पॉलिटिशियंस नाल। दैट्स माई स्पैशलाइजेशन, कनेडियन पॉलिटिशियंस, ईदर फैडरल, प्रोविंशियल और सिटी पॉलिटिशियंस। ते उन्हां नाल फिर जिहड़े ਵੱਖਰੇ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਫੇਸ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਉਹ ਟੇਬਲ ਤੇ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਹਾਈ ਲੈਵਲ ਦੇ ਕੈਨ ਗਿਵ ਯੂ ਦਾ ਫਸਟ ਹੈਂਡ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਾਟਸ ਗੋਇੰਗ ਔਨ। ਸੋ ਇਹਦੇ ਸਦਕਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਰੈਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਈ ਦੀ ਹੈ, ਥੋੜੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਈ ਦੀ ਹੈ। ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਦੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਐਡੀਟੋਰੀਅਲ ਤੋਂ ਕਰੀਦਾ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬ੍ਰੇਕਿੰਗ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਕਵਰ ਅਪ ਕਰਕੇ ਵਿਦਿਨ 3-4 minutes and then I will introduce our guest. So जिस तरह तुहानूं पता ही है कि Milano Cortina 2026 Olympics started. So वो Olympic जिहड़ी है हालांकि जिहड़ी official opening will be tomorrow पर वो शुरू हो चुके है। पर unfortunately अपने जिहड़े Canadian snowboarder है मार्क मैकमोरिस he during a practice ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ crash ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ and you know he 3-time bronze medal winner. It's kind of with the start with the Olympics it's a upset news for Canada, but you know he came on the cameras and he said he's doing well but he will not be able to compete unfortunately. So Olympic ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਜਾਣੇ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਜੋਏ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਕੱਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਓਪਨਿੰਗ ਸੈਰੀਮਨੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਕੌਂਸਲਰ ਪੀਟ ਫਰਾਈ ਨੇ ਯੈਸਟਰਡੇ ਇਹ ਅਨਾਊਂਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਮਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫੀਫਾ ਸੌਕਰ ਦੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਟੂਰਨਾਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਣੇ ਵਰਲਡ ਕਲਾਸ ਉੱਥੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਈਸ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਭੇਜਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਐਜ਼ ਏ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਲਈ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਐਪਰੀਸ਼ੀਏਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਆਈ ਡੋਂਟ ਨੋ ਵੇਅਰ ਦ ਪੀਟ ਫਰਾਈਜ਼ ਇਜ਼ ਕਮਿੰਗ ਫਰੋਮ। ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਫੋਰਸਿਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਨਫ ਹੈ। I agree with him, but so ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਆਈਸ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ and as you know I stand for immigration and custom enforcement sorry। so ਉਹ ਆਈਸ ਵਰਡ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਯੂਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੀਸੋਟਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਆ ਤੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਈਸ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ actually considered to be 2 people killed and there is a lot of riots, a lot of people are hurting and ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਟਰੰਪ ਦੇ ਬੋਰਡਰ ਜ਼ਾਰ ਆ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਟੌਮ ਹੋਮਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਰੀਸੈਂਟਲੀ ਅਨਾਊਂਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਉੱਥੋਂ 700 ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਈਸ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਕੱਢ ਲੈਣਗੇ। ਪਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਵੀ ਅਬਾਊਟ 2000 ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਈਸ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ ਹੈ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਐਂਡ ਕਸਟਮਸ ਇਨਫੋਰਸਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗਾਰਡ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹ ਸਟਿਲ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ and there is a lot of federal agents. So ਬੜਾ chaos kind of environment ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਨਰੈਸਟ ਜਿਹਾ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ। ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ 700 ਬੰਦੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਕੱਢੇ ਆਈਸ ਦੇ ਐਂਡ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਦੇ ਗਵਰਨਰ ਟਿਮ ਵਾਲਸ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ that's at least a good step in the right direction. So that's what he said. So we'll be seeing because the mid-term elections are coming in the US. So let's see what Trump and who Trump listens to ਉੱਥੇ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਇਹ ਦੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ। ਬਾਕੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਕਾਰਨੀ ਨੇ ਬੇਸਿਕਲੀ ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਅਨਾਊਂਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਆਟੋ ਇੰਡਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਆਫ ਦ ਟੈਰਿਫਸ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਾਫੀ ਹਰਟ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। ਸੋ ਦੇ ਲਾਂਚ ਦ ਨਿਊ ਪਾਲਿਸੀ ਫॉर electronic vehicles. So people ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਜੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਡਿਸਕੰਟੀਨਿਊ ਕਰਤੀ but again if you are buying a electronic vehicle 5000 ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਦੀ ਤਰਫੋਂ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਊਗੀ ਐਂਡ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਹਾਈਬ੍ਰਿਡ ਕਾਰਾਂ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਪਲੱਗ ਇਨ ਹਾਈਬ੍ਰਿਡ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ 2500 ਦੀ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਊਗੀ। ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਇਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨਵੀਂ ਸਟ੍ਰੈਟਜੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨਿਊ ਕਾਰਾਂ ਬਿਲਟ ਹੋਣੀਆਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਹੈ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਚਾਈਨਾ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਐਗਰੀਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਇਆ ਬਈ ਉਹ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਿਲਟ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾਣ। ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਨੇ $3 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਦਾ ਬਜਟ ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਆਟੋ ਮੈਨੂਫੈਕਚਰਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪਿਆ ਆ ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਤੇ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਘੱਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ। ਤੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਦ ਗੁੱਡ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਇਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਡਗ ਫੋਰਡ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਬੜਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਸਟੈਪ ਹੈਗਾ, ਸਟੈਪ ਇਨ ਦ ਰਾਈਟ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ, ਸੋ ਦੈਟਸ ਗੁੱਡ ਸਟੈਪ ਦੇਅਰ। ਐਂਡ ਹੁਣ ਦੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ 3 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੇਨ ਗੱਲ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਵਹੀਕਲ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੈਂਟਰਸ ਹੈ, ਚਾਰਜਿੰਗ ਸੈਂਟਰਸ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂ ਉਹ ਇਨਫਰਾਸਟਰਕਚਰ ਦੀ ਕਮੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਵਹੀਕਲ ਬਾਹਲੇ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਏ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਦੇ ਟੇਕ ਇਟ ਆਫ ਬਟ ਦੈਨ ਸਲੋ ਡਾਊਨ, ਪਰ ਹੁਣ ਆਹ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਗ੍ਰਾਂਟ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੇ ਪਲੱਸ ਜੇ ਚਾਰਜਿੰਗ ਸਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਲੱਗਣ ਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਟ ਵਿਲ ਬੀ ਕਨਵੀਨੀਅੰਟ ਫॉर ਪੀਪਲ ਟੂ ਚਾਰਜ ਦੇਅਰ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰੋਨਿਕ ਵਹੀਕਲ। ਸੋ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ USA ਜਿਹੜਾ ਐਗਰੀਮੈਂਟ ਹੈ, ਕੈਨੇਡਾ USA ਮੈਕਸੀਕੋ ਕੁਸਮਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਦਈਦਾ ਸ਼ਾਰਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹਦਾ ਰਿਵਿਊ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ, ਉਹਦੇ ਸਦਕਾ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਐਕਟਿਵ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਐਕਟਿਵ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਐਟੀਟਿਊਡ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਟੇਟਮੈਂਟ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਟੇਕ ਕੇਅਰ ਆਫ ਆਵਰ ਸੈਲਫਸ ਐਂਡ ਆਈ ਐਮ 100% ਐਗਰੀ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਦੀ, ਦੈਟਸ ਵਾਈ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਟਰੈਵਲਿੰਗ all over the world and making the agreements with different countries, although a lot of US people including Trump don't like that, but ਜਦੋਂ ਚਾਈਨਾ ਨਾਲ ਡੀਲ ਬਣਾਈ ਸੀਗੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਕਾਰਨੀ ਨੇ, that's not a free trade deal, so they made it very clear that's not a free trade deal। ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਟੈਰਿਫਸ ਦੇ ਸਦਕਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਲੀਕੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹ ਦੋਨੇ ਸਾਈਡਾਂ ਤੇ ਸੀਗੇ। ਸੋ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਨੋਲਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਾਤਾ ਸੀ, ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ EVs ਤੇ ਲਾਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਸੋ ਵੀ ਅਲਾਓ ਦੇਰ EVs ਨਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਨੋਲਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਘਟਾਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਟੈਰਿਫ, ਐਂਡ ਸੇਮ ਟਾਈਮ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੀ ਫੂਡ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਘਟਾਤਾ ਆ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਬੜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁੱਡ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਫॉर ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਇਕੋਨਮੀ ਐਂਡ ਲੌਂਗ ਟਰਮ ਵਿਲ ਬੀ ਵੈਰੀ ਗੁੱਡ ਨਿਊਜ਼। ਇੱਕ ਬੜੀ ਸੈਡ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, 7 ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਆਫੀਸਰ ਐਂਡ 1 ਰਿਟਾਇਰਡ ਆਫੀਸਰ ਚਾਰਜ ਵਿਦ ਅ corruption probe। It's so sad that they were leaking the information and ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦਾ ਮੋਰਲ ਵੀ ਡਾਊਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ they are working on that। There was a big breaking news today, so 7 Toronto police officers and 1 retired officers charged with a corruption probe। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਬਾੜੀ ਖੇਤ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਣ ਲੱਗ ਪਏ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜੌਬ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਟ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ, ਤੇ ਜੇ ਇਹੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਹੈ। ਬਾਕੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਮ EB ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਸੀ ਐਂਡ ਆਈ ਹੈਡ ਅ ਚਾਂਸ ਟੂ ਅਟੈਂਡ ਦੇਅਰ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ। ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫੋਕਸ ਸੀਗਾ ਉਹ ਐਕਸਟੋਰਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਸੀਗਾ, ਤੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਮੈਂ couldn't find a better person and I'm talking about Amna Shah, MLA for Surrey City Centre since 2024, and Amna is a parliamentary secretary for anti-racism initiative to the Attorney General and Deputy Premier, and the parliamentary secretary for mental health and addictions, and she also served as the Deputy Governor Whip. Amna is past volunteer and director on the board of Surrey Food Bank and serve as the outreach director and the BC Government Caucus. Please join me welcoming Amna Shah.
Thank you so much for having me, CJ, and आपका बहुत-बहुत शुक्रिया कि आपने अपने शो पे मुझको इनवाइट किया।
Well, you very welcome, Amna, and अपने बहुत देर से सोच रहे थे कि आपको बुलाएंगे क्योंकि your colleague and associate Jesse Sunner came on my last interview and good to see you in public functions, that you're going out and reaching out to people, and that's the role of MLA, serving the community. So you can add, I just give a brief introduction, you can tell a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit about me and where I come from. I'm very proud to be a first generation immigrant to Canada and coming here to BC at the tender age of 14. And it's been quite the journey for me. मैंने कभी भी नहीं सोचा था जब मैं 14 सालों की थी कि एक दिन इस तरह की सर्विस करूँगी कम्युनिटी के लिए, लेकिन सारी ज़िंदगी मेरा काम it was very service oriented। in many of my roles. Or jo mera purpose tha was to really make some meaningful change in the community throughout the various roles. I think there's many ways in which you can serve our community, and I did that through volunteering, through some of my job roles in government, and now as an advocate for the constituents of Surrey City Centre.
That's good to know, Amna. And आपका birth जो था वो पाकिस्तान में हुआ, and at a very young age. I think you were 5 and moved to Malaysia, and from Malaysia moved to Canada, and at a very young age, at 14. इन देशों से आपका वैसे तो you were a baby when you left Pakistan basically, and then Malaysia. What are your experience about as a childhood experience about these countries?
Yeah. It was very exciting as a child to get to go to different places and see different cultures and be raised in different environments. Of course, it doesn't come without its challenges. You know, जब हम पाकिस्तान से Malaysia हमने move किया था, we moved to a country that is very diverse. Or वहाँ पे, you know, my parents, mere Ami or mere Abu, they were looking for a good opportunity for their family, for their kids, hopes of a better future. और वहाँ पे उन्होंने काफ़ी अच्छा काम किया था जब when Malaysia was going through its economic boom and developing their post-secondary institutions. And they did some instrumental work in helping shape that. Lekin the dream was always to come to Canada. My dad was always drawn to the reputation of Canada across the world, the opportunity, you know, the vision and the dream of coming to a place which is so diverse, but also offers equality to everybody who works hard and really, you know, bought into the Canadian dream. And so जब हमको पता चला था कि हम Canada आ रहे हैं, it was incredibly exciting for me. मैंने सिर्फ books में read किया था कि Canada कैसे है, और जब यहाँ पे हम पहुँचे थे तो it was that and more. लेकिन along with that, काफ़ी challenges भी थे. You know, I think most immigrants can relate to the story of the challenges in finding jobs, of, you know, really being treated with some fairness in our communities, and the struggles that go with it, but also the successes. Or I think this is part of why मेरा जो दिमाग था वो हर वक्त community service में था, क्योंकि मैंने अपने parents की journey देखी है, हमारी journey देखी है. Or one thing that I noticed is that you can't get by unless you have community.
True.
And it's your duty, it's your responsibility to give back. It's not just, you know, in terms of charity or something nice to do on the side. I think if we all want a successful community for all of us, we all have to give back.
Very well said, Amna. And you moved here at a very young age. And you're also a parliamentary secretary for anti-racism. जब आप यहाँ आए, and that was 2004, I guess, and you were 14, and now you guys came to Surrey, I guess, है ना? 20 साल हो गए Surrey रहते हुए. And what is your personal experience? आपका personal experience, school में जाना, high school जाना, you know.
Yeah.
Tell us your experience, because, you know, woman being of color and, you know, ethnic communities, and we still face that.
I actually think I'm a little bit lucky in some sorts, because I was able to have an experience moving from my home country to another country and learning how to adapt to the customs, the cultures, and the mindsets of that community. But it was very challenging. I think सबसे पहला जो experience होता है वो culture shock का experience होता है. And knowing that, oh wow, I've never seen this before, how do I navigate it? But at the same time, so that I don't stand out, so that I fit in a little bit and can get comfortable in my environment. So is that, you know, it was a little bit difficult at first to adjust. Lekin we are a small family and we support each other so well. We've always remained a small family here in Canada. And I think without the guidance of my parents, my brother and my sister who helped
So you
me.
how many? Sorry, I totally forgot. You have two siblings?
I do, and they're both older than me.
Oh, there you go. So you're the baby of the house.
I'm the baby of the family, and I learned so much from them. And I was also a bit of the daredevil in the family, so I always tried things that were
Shararti?
बिल्कुल शरारती थी जरा सी और लेकिन you know it's a lot of the journey and the experience which contributed to all of my widely held beliefs that I have today, and that is that we're not a perfect society, we're not a perfect community, but I see so much good in our community. People like yourself, people like trailblazers in our South Asian community that are making it easier for all of us to be able to succeed together. And we can never forget that. You know, we all have our problems, we have our fair share of them. We have our challenges and struggles that we have to work through, but we can't do that unless we work through it together. And that's how we prevail as a community, whether it be the South Asian community or the Surrey community or the BC community.
Bilkul.
Everything happens at a different scale, but the importance is, where's the solution? How do we get there, and how do we get there together?
So that leads me to the next question.
Yeah.
Before we go to the people's issues and talk about that, राजनीति में कैसे आपको पता कि politics में आना is a very different field.
Yeah.
So you finish your education.
KPU.
KPU.
Yeah.
You did a.
So I did nothing related to political science, as maybe many people think. Biology was my passion, and the sciences were my passion.
Wanted to be a doctor.
A doctor or a marine biologist. That was my goal at the time. But you know, I had an opportunity to be able to work with some of our local MLAs here, and the work and how service-oriented it was just drew me in. And many, many years later, I'm still in the work of service, government, and now in an elected position. So my journey, I think, is not necessarily very traditional, क्योंकि काफ़ी लोग when they decide to run for public office, you know, they have careers that may not necessarily be related to government or to politics, and they come in with a very different and specialized perspective at times, which is healthy for us. But I can say that I was very well aware in my expectations around what was required to be an elected official. What I was not prepared for, though, was how challenging it would be. As a South Asian woman, woman of color in this country, we have got miles to go when it comes to the perception of who you are when you're running for a position in public office. It was very eye-opening for me, but I'm so happy and proud that I have colleagues like MLA Jesse Sunner here in Surrey Newton,
Yes.
that I'm part of a caucus that is majority women for the first time in Canadian history or BC's history. And all of these women are powerhouses. They bring so much to the table. But we, of course, we have the challenges where people say, oh, you know, she's a DEI hire, or that, you know, she doesn't really know much and she was just handed this just because she's a woman of color, and that's categorically false.
See, that's, you know, that's stigma, and that's part and parcel. Sometimes we call it, you know, the, you know, systemic racism. Mm-hmm. So they come in a different ways, different roles. Oh, she's young, she's rookie, like you said. ये कैसे हैंडल करेगी. So let's get on to that. So आपको पहले तो you are a rookie MLA. On top of that, they give you very good responsibility of racism and anti-racism, obviously, and mental health and addiction. Can you discuss थोड़ा बहुत इन portfolio के बारे में बताओ अपने viewers को?
Bilkul. You know, it's been a privilege to serve in both roles. ये both काफ़ी heavy roles हैं हमारी community में especially. और जो मेरा first role जो मुझको appoint किया था वो mental health and addictions की parliamentary secretary की. And really the goal is we want to treat mental health and addictions care as health care in this province. आपको पता है कि for too long or अभी भी there's quite a bit of stigma around
yes.
accessing mental health care, accessing addictions care. और काफ़ी लोग हैं जो हमारी community में they suffer silently. They don't know where to turn to. They're ashamed to ask for help क्योंकि उनको नहीं पता है कि उनके दोस्त क्या कहेंगे, उनकी family क्या कहेगी, employers हर कोई. So challenging that culture in itself is quite difficult. But one of the ways in which we can do it is by making care very accessible to our communities, कि confidential हो, कि ये हमारी culture और हमारी values का respect करे. And that's why culturally sensitive care and culturally safe access is so important in mental health and addictions, especially in the South Asian community.
Very true, very true. You said because I covered mental health quite a bit, addictions. जैसे आपको पता ही है कि अपने जब भी कोई overdose से death होती है, तो when I go to few funerals and they will say a heart attack because they're so ashamed. ये नहीं है कि उसको accept करके वहाँ पे जो speakers भी हैं, openly they should say, guys, get a help, don't do that. So we can save lives. So जैसे आपने बताया, so ministry level पे और दूसरी जो lot of volunteer organization, इसमें किस तरह का काम चल रहा है ताकि this is a very, very serious issue not in our community, but in community in general.
Absolutely. Or part of the goal has been to expand access all across the province. I was just at an announcement yesterday where we announced 10 new treatment beds at the Creekside Medical Withdrawal Management Center here right across from Surrey Memorial Hospital. और ये जो 10 treatment beds हैं, ये detox beds हैं.
So it will be a part of the hospital or?
It's just across the hospital. And yes, of course.
Oh, there is another building there?
There are multiple buildings there, yeah. And I can discuss the purpose of some of those buildings.
Sure.
And this is one of them कि अगर किसी को treatment चाहिए or immediately चाहिए, the idea is that they call a central helpline, which is called Access Central. We've just expanded it across the province in Fraser Health Region. Or is line mein you have someone who will help guide you through the process. They can do an assessment. They can see what services are right for you, and then they can refer you. Or ye jo Creekside Withdrawal Management Center hai, these treatment beds that exist at this center are the first stage to treatment and recovery. जहाँ पे सब कुछ जो बदन में होता है निकल सके पहले हफ्ते में. So these 10 treatment beds we expect are going to serve over 500 people a year.
Oh,
and the demand is very high.
Very high.
Very high in our community. Or ye
but
jo,
it's a good start.
It's a very good start. They already have 24 treatment beds there, but we're expanding this capacity by 30%. And additionally, we know that sometimes हमारी community में it's difficult to get around. तो हमने even उनको एक van दिया कि अगर किसी को if they don't have means of transportation, that they can be picked up from their home and be taken there quietly, confidentially, and with care. And after that initial phase of detox, then they're connected to additional services. वहाँ की जगह पे एक और clinic है, रोशनी clinic, जिधर बहुत से access to services होती हैं specifically for the South Asian community. क्योंकि हमको पता है कि
language issue हो जाता है कई बार.
Language issue होता है, कोई हमारी cultural differences that we need respect. Sometimes people who are not from our community may not understand those things. Or इस clinic में specifically South Asian targeted care है. And it's in the same area right across from Surrey Memorial Hospital, and they receive people every single day who are seeking help, whether it be to addiction services at any stage in their recovery. So I think making things accessible for people is a key component of it. And then that way we can face the long-term battle of changing the culture. You know, मैं हर वक्त सोचती हूँ कि how do we do that? और मैं सोचती हूँ हमारी ज़िंदगी में none of our lives are a linear progression. हम चलते हैं, हम गिरते हैं, हम चलते हैं, हम गिरते हैं. और हर किसी की struggles होती हैं. And those who have mental health issues and addictions, substance use issues, उनकी भी ज़िंदगी ऐसी होती है. Lekin their challenges are definitely far more severe than somebody who's not
बिल्कुल
facing that.
And इसके साथ साथ Amna, you know, community understanding, educational जो part है ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. Like you said it earlier that stigma है, लोग डरते हैं, बात नहीं करते, शर्म महसूस करते हैं. तो उसके लिए कोई effort किए जा रहे हैं educational ताकि people don't have to feel shame before it gets too late.
जी.
कई बार घबराते हैं, ठीक है, कई बार so much a misunderstanding about mental health कि it's very difficult for the family. On top of that, the stigma in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. और हमने इसलिए Fraser Health के साथ conversations की थी कि जो information होती है, it also needs to be translatable, it needs to be accessible to our communities. If you go on the Fraser Health website, you'll see informational videos that are in Punjabi, in Hindi, in Urdu, that are there to talk about these very sensitive issues. And how do you talk about these issues with your mom, your dad, or your brother or your sister? And these are meant as a guide to help. Now, some people will say we need to go even earlier than that and help educate our next generation about how to deal with these things, which is why our Foundry centers are an incredible component of that preventative sort of measure to help people with mental health or even any addictions issues. We just opened up a new Foundry center in my riding in Surrey Central, which serves youth from 12 to 24 years and also supports their families. और ये जो care है जो Foundry Center में मिलता है, it's available in over 100 languages. So you can actually access that care through specialized individuals, again, care that respects your culture, your beliefs, and your cultural customs, right? तो ये preventative measure है कि जब भी youth को पता नहीं है कि मैं किधर जाऊं, किससे बात करूं, they can drop into Foundry. There's an app on the phone क्योंकि आपको पता है कि हमारी younger generation, first thing they go to is their phones.
So the app, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but जो app है उसका नाम क्या है?
Foundry, the Foundry app.
So Foundry, how they came up with this name?
You know what? It was I'm not sure about the name, but it's a model.
Maybe
that
foundational. And then,
yeah, absolutely. Right? And it was a successful model that was based upon the community work that was being done in throughout British Columbia.
So ये कहाँ पे है Foundry Center?
In Surrey Central, right across from Surrey Central SkyTrain station.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. And it's a very large operation. There's primary care there as well. तो अगर किसी youth के पास doctor नहीं है, family doctor नहीं है, even general healthcare concerns हैं, they can see a doctor there. वहाँ पे safe places हैं for youth who want to be in a safe place and not around maybe peers who are not very helpful to them in their lives. It's a safe place for them there.
तो कितनी capacity है?
Oh, I think it's like 10,000 square feet. It's a very large space. It doesn't look that way from the outside, but once you get in and you tour the place, you realize there's so much happening there.
And people can stay there as well, or?
So you can't stay there overnight, but you can walk in, you can drop in and get services. Right
and then they provide you a proper.
Absolutely.
Or they send you where they should be getting more help.
Absolutely. And the idea is that it should be a one-stop shop for youth, whatever their needs are, even life skills. So if they want to for example, update their resume. There's
Acha,
life
acha,
skill
acha.
coaches through Pacific Community Resources Society who do the life skills training throughout Foundry
So
as
it's
well.
a youth, basically, you said.
Exactly.
12 साल से लेके 24.
Yeah, जी,
12,
24. Yeah,
24.
24.
तो अपने जैसे एमना अब सिटी सेंट्रल एरिया में मेंटल हेल्थ इशू से होमलेसनेस की इशू जैसे अपने ईस्ट एंड वैनकूवर में जो सिचुएशन है दैट्स लॉट टू डू विद मेंटल हेल्थ
It does.
एंड सेम थिंग हैपनिंग इन दिस सिटी सेंटर एरिया नाउ दैट्स इट्स सैड what kind of help we're providing them.
Yeah. And so I think this is, we have to have a holistic approach. There's the voluntary care, which we are working on to expand here in Fraser Health. The BC's Road to Recovery model, which is a continuum of services, right from the moment you decide that you want detox services up all the way through treatment and aftercare, and ensuring that somebody doesn't leave your side throughout navigating that system, which is being expanded here in Fraser Health. I'm sure you also heard that the Premier announced that we're going to be expanding in voluntary care as well here in Surrey. And that will address individuals who have multiple concurrent disorders, including brain injury. क्योंकि हमको पता है कि there are some folks in our community who are very vulnerable, but also who may be a risk to themselves and to our community as well. And for them, voluntary care may not be the right form of care or treatment for them. And that's what the involuntary care system is going to address. So, of course, हमारी first priority है voluntary care. क्योंकि हमको पता है कि लोग want to be able to be in control of their recovery journey, their treatment. They want to be able to make those conscious decisions. But when people can't, we should have the option available to ensure that they can get that care so that they do not continue to harm themselves.
So get all this seminar, get all this information that talked about in a great length. So they can go on a government website?
Yeah, so there's the phone line, there's Access Central that you can call. They're open 8:30 to 8:30 every single day, and they're taking in phone calls. You can also go on the government website called helpstartshere.gov. .bc.ca, I think, and that's where you have a lot of tools and resources, also in other languages as well, to help walk you through the process of what it looks like.
People should go and reach out to these resources rather than suffering quietly.
Absolutely.
And not knowing, because there is a help, same thing when that goes to a next level, there is a committing a suicide, खुदकुशी जो है, उसके भी number काफी increase हो रहे हैं. Overdose deaths, we have like a record number of overdose, unfortunately, in British Columbia alone.
जी. And it's very tragic. जब हम सुनते हैं कि कोई लोग कहते हैं कि I want the help, I really do, but I just don't know who to talk to. Or confidentiality is key here. Someone needs to feel safe that when they call that Access Central line, that is safe and confidential for them.
और मैं तो अमना इससे आगे भी स्टेप जो है जैसे आपने पहले बताया कि community involvement जो है, if somebody reaches to any of us as a community, just forward them, they need somebody to talk.
Yes.
When they go to, and when they talk, we can send them to a proper place to get a help rather than they suffering, like you said, by themselves.
Yeah. हमारी जो partnerships भी हैं local non-profit organizations के साथ, for example, SUCH, which is the South Asian Community Hub.
Yes.
ये हमारी community में काम करते हैं, especially with the South Asian community as their focus. और हम उनको support करते हैं through funding कि वो community के अंदर जाके outreach करें, गुरुद्वारास में, मस्जिद में, मंदिर्स में, लोगों के साथ बात करें, to get them accustomed and acclimatized to the conversation that, hey, we're not invincible. to this type of issue. हम सोचते हैं, you know, हमारी community में काफ़ी high levels हैं heart disease के, हमारी community में काफ़ी high levels हैं undiagnosed mental health issues भी हैं.
Yes. वो जैसे पहले भी अपने बात की थी कि स्टिग्मा की बजाय, घबराने की बजाय कि किसी को पता चल जाएगा दिस एंड दैट, गो गेट ए हेल्प बिफोर इट्स गेट्स टू लेट. सो इसके साथ साथ जो आपका दूसरा पोर्टफोलियो है रेसिज्म का, तो मैंने ओवर द ईयर्स व्हेन आई लुक अराउंड टॉक टू पीपल लाइक यू एंड इन दिस फील्ड, अभी भी अपने जो साउथ एशियन कह लो या उधर माइनॉरिटीज़ ग्रुप है, उनको जैसे कमेटीज़ में, बोर्ड्स में अपने जो वो जगह नहीं मिल रही जितनी उनको मिलनी चाहिए. तो उसके लिए आप क्या एफर्ट्स कर रहे हैं?
So my anti-racism file, or काफ़ी crossover or overlap भी होता है mental health and addictions maybe. So I've noticed this trend that it's these two positions are very good to work with each other. लेकिन जो आप कह रहे हैं, you're absolutely right. Boards में, committees में, we need representation from members of our communities, our ethnic communities specifically. Or ये again requires a culture change within our government systems, within our board systems, within the way in which we appoint people. तो हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने in 2024 एक एंटी रेसिज्म एक्ट पास किया था, और the purpose of that act is for all of our government ministries or public bodies to develop an anti-racism action plan and to commit to that plan and accomplish that plan in the time frame of 2 years. क्योंकि हमको पता है कि जब हम accountability demand करते हैं, the first place that we should demand that accountability is from ourselves, from our own government.
Oh yes.
तो जब हम सोचते हैं कि कितनी government services होती हैं हमारी communities में, जो frontline होते हैं, जो you know, government service workers भी होते हैं, sometimes it requires retraining, sometimes it requires cultural safety training to be able to understand the nuances and the specific needs of our communities. तो हर ministry अब काम कर रही है establish करने के goals establish करने के लिए, and when we launch this anti-racism action plan in hopefully June of this year, तो फिर उनके पास 2 years होंगे, 2 years होंगे कि ये सारी objectives accomplish करें. And the whole point of this is so that when people access government services, that they're able to get that in a way which is barrier-free, in a way in which they do not feel as though they're being treated differently. क्योंकि हमको पता है that still exists in many different forms. और फिर जो ये आपकी बात जो boards की थी or committees की थी, that work can't really happen unless there's representation on committees and boards.
And people should come forward to...
Exactly. And we welcome people to come forward. I personally am always on the hunt for individuals who fit the bill, and I encourage people. Sometimes the value of your lived experience can be far more than your academic qualifications, can be far more than what anybody else has to offer in specific cases. So I wouldn't, if you're a person who is a person of color, you're a woman, or you're another equity-seeking group individual, don't sell yourself short. You have a lot more to offer than you think.
बिल्कुल सही बात है, because you know people have to come forward, they have to put their name forward, either female, youth. We need all of them to, you know, somehow. Because when people sit on the board like you now come to that point, it makes a difference.
It does.
And then they have to listen. If I remember over the years serving on a different positions, and I see when people, then they think twice about any either making a racist comment or you know, the not sensitive comment. So अगर अपने टेबल पे बैठे होंगे, it makes a difference.
और हमने देखा हुआ है कि sometimes it's not the overt racism. ये जो covert racism होती है, ये जो microaggressions होती हैं, can be very damaging to people. हमने हमारी racist incident helpline launch की थी आखिरी साल. We've had over 1,000 calls to the incident helpline. And not all of these cases are you're very overt, very blatant. These can be racism at the workplace,
Yes.
racism within
Yes.
your work teams, racism between employer employees or between colleagues. So, and these are, unless you're the recipient of it, you don't really see the impact, because again, a lot of people suffer through these things quietly.
Where the bullying comes in all these contexts, mental health, addictions, racism in the schools and all that.
Well, bullying is probably the strongest component to all of this. I mean, if you're racist, you're a bully. And if you're a bully, then you're hurting people.
Yes.
And racism hurts people. So these are very interconnected, and sometimes, you know, they may be even within community. हम sometimes सोचते हैं कि ये सिर्फ एक community से दूसरी community की racism है. Sometimes it's within communities as well. Or I think we have to broaden our mind around what is racism actually. And racism is something that is detrimental to somebody based on their ethnicity. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. If you are being victimized through racism, that's racism, period.
Yeah. And they have to come forward and
Absolutely.
report that. Thoda sa apne, let's switch the gear and talk about, you know, recently in a South Asian community, the extortion cases skyrocketed, and Mayor Brenda Locke, you know, called for a national state of emergency or similar effort. She went to Ottawa. Ottawa जाके उन्होंने बात की, क्योंकि वो जो म्यूनिसिपलिटीज़ के कॉकस है, सो प्राइम मिनिस्टर के साथ भी मीटिंग हुई. इसी तरह मिस्टर ईबी went in a first minister's meeting with prime minister, and then he brought it up. So it's a very, very serious issue in our communities, and I had a chance to attend Premier EB's press conference online. And what are your take on that?
So, you know, it's absolutely heartbreaking to see that hard-working families some who have been here for generations, some who haven't been here that long, who are being impacted by such heinous crimes. You know, we've heard heartbreaking stories from families who live in fear every single day. And it's unacceptable that it's continuing, and at times it ramps up, and at times it simmers down, but that it's not going away. And just as the situation is evolving, we need to evolve as well in our response. हमने जो BC Extortion Task Force launch की थी आखिरी साल, it was a multi-agency task force, क्योंकि हमको पता था कि ये जो complex criminal networks होती हैं, you can't just have one police force tackle it all by themselves. This is a pervasive and a large geographical location in which this is happening. This is happening all across the country. लेकिन हमारी police agencies को proper coordination चाहिए with each other, along with CBSA, municipal forces, RCMP forces, to tackle the situation together. It's not just about information sharing, it's about coordinated action once they're able to get some leads. So when we launched that, the idea was to ensure that coordination and that quick response could happen. Now, we've been following, my colleagues and I from the BC NDP caucus, we've been meeting with families, been meeting with businesses who are going through this every single day. And it's clear we can do so much more. We have to do more, because clearly the extortions are still going on. So one of our biggest roles is to ensure that police have the adequate resources that they need to do their job. And when they're not getting that, we need to make sure that they have that. So we've been working with the federal government. I'm sure you've heard recently we're getting 20 additional officers.
RCMP officers and 2 helicopters.
And helicopter usage as well, which is great. I still think we can do more. I think the other component to this is how are families treated when they reach out for help. We've heard in the community that maybe there's not adequate assistance that's being provided or care that's being provided or communication.
Amna, उसके साथ साथ जो premier ने बताया, and it's very true what you're saying, just to add to that, inconsistencies with the communication breakdown. Like एक organization, दूसरी organization, either it can be Surrey Police Services with RCMP with the other departments. There is a lack of coordination, and then things falls in the cracks. And Premier brought that in front.
Yeah.
So ये बहुत जरूरी है.
Very, very important. Communication with community about what is happening on the ground is extremely crucial. So as you know, just yesterday, the Premier announced that we're going to have a community advisory committee.
Yes.
That's going to be led by
Paul Dadwal.
Paul Dadwal, who's an ex-RCMP officer, and multiple other members on the committee. And their role is to ensure that communication is flowing with the general public, families who are affected, and law enforcement, and to make sure that that communication doesn't break down. As I said, ye jo extortion ki baat, that this is ever evolving, and we need to really press hard to have an all of law enforcement approach, which means the BC Extortion Task Force is important, but so is the SPS. The SPS needs resources, the BC Extortion Task Force needs resources, and we need to be able to give that to them.
Yeah, and the coordination, there will be I think in the next couple of weeks, the police forces from 3-4 provinces and their chiefs and their committees, they will be meeting to address, because it's not British Columbia problem. Absolutely. It's happening in other provinces as well. Ontario, Brampton is a big, the battleground is Surrey and Brampton.
Yes.
But it's happening. Calgary and other places. So there is a coordination effort, and this task force is important. And when they join all the resources together, I think there should be a solution.
There should be a solution, and we've seen, very quick police work. On Sunday night, there were cases of shots fired in our community. The next day, 3 individuals were apprehended and charged, which is great. That's how quickly we need to be moving in some of these cases, and that's what visibility of police and added patrols does in our community, which speaks to the need for why we need more officers on the ground as well. And so those 20 officers, they're a welcome addition, but the important part is that we actually also see this through, right? Some of these individuals, they're foreign nationals. They have committed crimes here, and we are working with CBSA to ensure that they're removed promptly.
Yes.
And of course, as you know, we're dealing with challenges with some of these individuals applying.
And at the same time, the federal government coming up with the new bill, and the loopholes will be closed, so they have more teeth to deport them if they are involved in a criminal activity.
Absolutely. And so that work is incoming. I think speed is of the essence when it comes to legislation, when it comes to police work, and I'm really hoping that we'll see more of what we saw on Monday morning with police work, and more of what we saw when we got additional assistance from the federal government here in Surrey.
So, Amna, we have about 5 minutes left. There is a lot of other challenges the communities are facing. Affordability is the issue, healthcare is the issue, the wait times in the emergency departments is like unbelievably, hard for the family, like 7-8 hours wait times. Lot of the emergency departments, because of lack of staff or whatever, they're closing on the weekends. What are your take on these very crucial issues?
In a world of a global shortage of healthcare professionals, we are certainly not in a different place. But again, whatever situation we are in, government needs to be responsive, which means we need to tackle our issues head on. What we've seen in Surrey, number one, has been a very, very sharp increase in population in a very short amount of time. And that, as you can imagine, is challenging, not just for government, but for community as well, in terms of the delivery of services, in terms of getting accustomed to the changes around you. And some things, such as healthcare, have been top of mind for our government in terms of gaps, for example, in services or in healthcare here in Surrey. Now, we've had some welcome changes to and additions to our healthcare system here in Surrey. We have, of course, the Surrey Hospital and the Cancer Care Center that is being built, which I would love to take you to and your team to, so you can see the enormity of the work that's happening there.
Sure.
We just added and have opened 2 brand new cardiac catheterization labs here in Surrey. And I personally know of people who have already received stents from that lab. And it's a state-of-the-art facility, and it's especially important for our South Asian community that has high incidence of heart disease. And previously, we know it was a burden for our for patients to have to travel to Royal Columbian to get that care and access. So we needed something here in Surrey, which is why we opened up the lab. We have our medical school, the first classes starting next year in August in their interim location in my riding as well. I feel like a lucky woman. And of course, we have the new acute care tower coming to Surrey Memorial as well, which is going to relieve some of the burden on the building.
What happened to second hospital? There's always talk about, second hospital, but are they coming or happening? Or?
I can guarantee you it's coming up. I've seen time lapses of how the building's built up. I myself have gone there just to witness the progress with my own 2 eyes so that I can talk about it in community. It is absolutely coming. It's a state-of-the-art facility. It is going to have an emergency room. I know that there's been some misinformation floating around about the new hospital, but almost 200 beds and yes, an emergency department that's going to have about 50 to 60 treatment spaces as well. So it's really going to alleviate the pressures on Surrey Memorial Hospital and on Peace Arch Hospital as well.
So as the sake of the time, very quickly, is any effort made for affordability? Because the average people, I don't know, there is a businesses are suffering. That's why people are out of jobs, and affordability is a big issue. Is any efforts made towards
Absolutely. We're in very tough economic times right now.
Definitely.
And what we want to ensure that the services that the provincial government is responsible for that are essential to our communities are not affected. What you will see, I think, in the coming days is
And the budget is coming too.
Yes, and what you'll see in the coming days is probably a picture that doesn't look as promising, but we want to preserve our essential services in this province. Now, some of the things that can alleviate affordability are better trade relationships with other provinces and with other countries. We cannot rely and risk tariffs on every single item in our grocery stores. That's why, yes, the Premier has...
When those barriers will come down, that will be helpful.
Absolutely. And we've seen Canadians support local. We've seen British Columbians support local. And what that does is it helps families just like yours, just like mine, who are in the business sector thrive as compared to maybe somebody who is delivering product from a corporation from our neighbors down south. And so it's a bit of a complicated issue in terms of all of the things that we can do to improve affordability, but rest assured, we cannot see any type of detriment to our community in terms of services that are crucial for us, that being healthcare, being access to housing, things like those which are so essential to all of us.
What you would like to say at the end?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much again, CJG, for having me here. These are important conversations, and I hope that it's been helpful to your viewers. Issues that are pertinent to our community. हमारे लिए बहुत काम रहता है, And I'm committed to doing that work along with my colleagues and our government. We have to stick together during this difficult time, during the headwinds that are to come. And I know that we've already seen the type of unity that exists here in Surrey and here in our province and across the country. And we have leaders in our community who are championing the way forward. Our small business champions, our medium-sized business champions, our nonprofit service providers who are directly helping folks on the front lines here in our communities. And we just have to remember that we need to stick together. We're going to continue doing the work. As always, I encourage all of your listeners and all of your viewers to contact your local elected representatives. The feedback, the guidance that you have to provide to us is more invaluable than anything that we could wish for.
Thank you very much, Amna, coming on my show. It is a pleasure. We discuss a lot of issues that our community need to know what's going on. And we will welcome you again on my show. And thank you very much and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, CJ. I really appreciate you.
ਸੋ ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਐਮਨਾ ਸ਼ਾਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਸਰੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਤੋਂ MLA ਹੈ, ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟਰੀ ਸੈਕਟਰੀ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਐਡਿਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਐਂਡ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਦੀ ਫਾਈਲ ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲੇ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ. ਦੇ ਆਰ young person doing really hard work like Jesse Sunner, her very good team. ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਪਰੋਚ ਕਰਿਆ ਕਰੋ, ਆਪਦੀ ਫੀਡਬੈਕ ਦਿਆ ਕਰੋ. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਫਿਸਿਸ ਆਲਵੇਜ਼ ਓਪਨ ਹੈ, ਫੋਨ ਨੰਬਰਸ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਹੈ. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਦੀ ਫੀਡਬੈਕ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦਿਆ ਕਰੋ. ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਜੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਕੋਈ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਫੇਸ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਜਾਂ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਫੇਸ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਹੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ 'ਤੇ ਭੇਜਣ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ ਕਰੀਏ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਇੱਕ ਲਾਈਫ ਵੀ ਸੇਵ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ ਨਾ. ਇਟਸ ਅ ਲੋਟ to help somebody. ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਰੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ CJ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਸ਼ੋ ਐਵਰੀ ਥਰਸਡੇ ਫਰਮ 7 to 8 o'clock. ਫੀਡਬੈਕ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਬਣਾ ਸਕੀਏ. ਧੰਨਵਾਦ. ਰੱਬ ਰਾਖਾ. Have a wonderful, happy, healthy weekend. ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ.